If you really like books that try to get into people's minds, see how they think, and you like a complicated list of point of view characters where eventually all their different experiences have to come together to create one single narrative, well, then today's book just might be for you. Today I'll be reviewing Nine Perfect Strangers by Liane Moriarty. Welcome back to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today we're looking at one of my favorite authors. Liane Moriarty actually has 9 full-length novels out. I've read 8 of them. As the title of the book says, at the core of this story is 9, it says perfect strangers. That's not entirely accurate. There's a few people that do already know each other, and on top of that, that's a reference to 9 guests at this health spa, and there's probably 3 or 4 other characters worth noting that are not these 9 characters. Just to give you a breakdown of who the main characters are in this book are, first of all, Frances Welty, who is a romance author who is currently in a bit of a slump for a variety of reasons. She's getting a little older, and as the book reveals, she also just recently had several relationship issues. She's been divorced twice, she doesn't have any kids, and as happy as she is with her writing career, she definitely struggles with having long-lasting relationships with individuals, and she details that throughout the book. Then you have Tony Hogborn, who is a former athlete who just recently separated from his wife. He has some children, that he has a difficult relationship, and his main reason for going to the spa, at least what he says, is that he would like to lose some weight, but just like all the characters in the story, you'll quickly see that they have a variety of reasons that they really need to go to the health resort for. Then there's Carmel Schneider, whose husband has recently left her and has a new girlfriend that is much younger, and she has 4 daughters, and she has a lot going on as she's trying to balance all this, but really her biggest issues, she's dealing with self-esteem issues. There's Lars Lee. He's a divorce attorney and makes big bucks, especially helping women when they separate to really get as much as they can out of a relationship. Then there's a married couple, Jessica Chandler and Ben Chandler. You discover that they had relatively recently won the lottery, and actually has had a pretty negative impact on their life, and they detail exactly how that could be the case, and there's, again, lots of reasons why that is. It's not one simple thing, but they explore, and of course at the heart of that is the tension in their own relationship that is, comes about from needing so much money. And then you come to the family that's probably at the heart of the story, although again, all these people play a role. I would say that the focus is probably put on the Marconis or possibly on Frances, the author. She's definitely the first point of view that you hear about, and just the way that the story unfolds, she seems to be the one that is there and involved with the most individuals by the end of it. But the Marconis is a family of a father who is a school teacher, his wife, and their daughter Zoe. You discover they had another son, the twin brother of Zoe, that died by suicide 3 years prior to the events in this book. Those are the main characters, the 9 perfect strangers, so the book says. And then there are a few other staff members that are worth noting. There's Yao, who is one of the assistants. He is not the person that actually owns or runs the health resort, but he is definitely her right-hand man, and he is the only one that really has a lot of additional details from his life prior to working at the spa. There's another one, Delilah, who you get a little more details about her, but her main thing is that as she is watching the treatment that's going on for these different people, she herself is becoming more skeptical of the approach. And then at the center of all this is Masha, and Masha is admittedly an interesting character. And it's really her story that is unfolding the most as you are reading the book. All the other people, you get bits and pieces, but to be honest, the tragedy at the heart of their telling comes out pretty early on. It's Masha's that you don't get all the details of until the end. And if you know anything about Liane Moriarty, she has a tendency to, even after you've gotten all the details, she still then adds one more little twist, and it's of course going to be about Masha and her experiences. I think that's enough about the plot, especially since each one of those 9 people, they have their own storylines going on. All of them have point of views that come out in the book, plus the other 3 actual staff members. And there are going to be twists and turns. Let me know in the comments if you would prefer that I do give you some spoilers. Just for now, I'm going to leave it at that, and it's up to you guys whether you think I should give you any real revelations. So there's a few things about this book that I have to cover. First of all, how I feel about this book specifically, and then there is the elephant in the room, and that is addressing the fact that it has been turned into a mini-series. And I do want to address some of that mini-series. Just like any Liane Moriarty book, the thing that I enjoy the most about this book is it's Liane Moriarty. And all of her books, regardless of the actual storyline, whatever the tragedies are that are at the heart of all these things, the way that she gets into people's minds is just so impressive. And the way that she uses not a full-throated stream of consciousness, but she certainly employs a certain amount that gives you an authenticity to the way people are thinking, and also a reality of what people think. Because of course, we by no means say all the things that go through our head. And so she makes it a point in her books to always give a more complete thought process for anybody. And I just really think that she does it incredibly well. And in so doing, she also does a great job at helping see people's relationships. And she helps to detail what types of things people think, feel, and then actually say out loud when it comes to a relationship. And that's probably the thing that Liane Moriarty does best. Although I think whatever mystery is behind any of her books is also in and of itself an engaging approach. Although sometimes, even after you get to the bottom of the mystery, you think to yourself, that's not that big of a deal. But I just liked the way she wrote the whole way, and she had a way of explaining it and unraveling the mystery in a way that just made it, no matter how traumatic or mundane the mystery was, her way of presenting it and all the other things that she does by using the thought processes and the relationships of everyone else around it is just so interesting and so engaging. There are some challenges that some people may not enjoy as much. So for starters, you have 12 point of view characters. And that is not for everybody, and I understand that. I know this is a big debate in certain genres. I know fantasy has a tendency to use a lot of point of view characters, although I think non-fantasy series usually only stick to one or two main characters, but this book does its best to actually focus on almost everyone. I will admit, if I were to rank all of Liane Moriarty's books, I would probably put this in the bottom half. But to be fair, I love all of her books. I have never read one of her books and said, that's overrated, I didn't care for it. And when I'm done with all of her books, I probably will put out a video ranking them. But to be honest, even at number 9 or 10 on that list is still going to be a really good book that I would recommend to almost anyone, especially anyone that reads broadly and does still enjoy fiction. And if you enjoy fiction, but you're not particularly interested in, say, fantasy or sci-fi, then this is definitely going to be a book for you, because nothing in this book, I would say, goes beyond the boundaries of a pretty easily conceptualized world. I do have to talk about the fact that there is a mini series that is based off this book, because I'm a big proponent of trying to read the original source material before I watch a movie or a mini series that it's based off of. Not to say that one is better than the other. I know that people always say the book was better. That's not my problem. My problem is that I think I just deal better when they've changed a movie or a TV series if I'm already familiar with whatever the original ending was. I have a hard time, I don't know why, I don't know what it is about me, but I have a hard time going the other way around. So when I look at this book and I look at how it ended and what were some of the changes that were in the miniseries, then I just suddenly find almost all those changes more annoying, even though they were probably perfectly fine changes. But just in case you're curious, a few of the things that you may want to know that are a little different between the miniseries and the book, without telling you everything that's different, I would say that the miniseries adds a couple ulterior motives to some of the people in the book that they do not have in the book at all. I won't go into detail, but there's just a few people that they make much more interesting, but probably a little more problematic in the miniseries than was in the book. Really, in the book, all of the people that are at this health resort, at this health spa, just are trying to heal, and they have looked at some kind of new way of doing it, and so they go to it and they're fully engaged. But the miniseries adds a few elements. Another difference between the book and the miniseries, just in case you want to know, and this one's a little bit of a spoiler, that is that in the miniseries, there's absolutely a tragedy at the heart of why Masha is compelled to do what she is doing, especially since she is trying to engage with or escape something tragic that happened in her life. That's true in the book as well. The difference is that in the miniseries, she is using the guests to help her solve that problem. In the book, it's not necessary that she's using the guests to help her solve that problem, as much as it's her just trying to feed her own ego. And something in the book that you don't quite see in the movie is that she becomes increasingly unstable in the book. And that's actually going to be part of the climax of the book, is just seeing how crazy Masha is by the end. Those are just a few differences. There's a few other minor changes. By and large, it's faithful, but those are just a few things that you are going to engage with. But I would have to say that I always recommend reading the book first. Again, that's not because the book is better, but I just have an easier time when I know the original source material and then I see changes versus the other way around. But if you are different for one reason or another, go ahead, let me know in the comments. I would love to know why you think it's better to go the other way around, or if you don't care, or if you agree with me. I always love to hear that people agree with me. I would recommend this book for almost anyone that likes to read fiction, especially if they're open to reading fiction that is not world-building fiction such as fantasy or sci-fi. Don't get me wrong, I love fantasy and sci-fi, but I also think that Liane Moriarty does an excellent job at just engaging with the human experience. And like I said, in almost all of her books, there is some kind of tragedy that has happened at the center of them, but that is not the whole point of the book. The whole point of the book is to explore individuals, their experiences, the way they think about the world, the way they engage with the world. It is a little more experimental than all of her other books. I would say that at least one of the characters she does make out to be straight up unlikable and unpleasant at times, and that's not always the case in her other books. In her other books, even when you have a character that most people find unlikable, she at least tries to give them some justification, because you go to their thought process and you go to whatever tragedy or whatever things cause them to be the way they are. But in this one, I do think there's a little bit more work of making someone just more tragic. On top of that, this is a little different from her other books in that you do have the past of everyone else that you are looking at that is a part of the storyline while you have something progressing at that moment. Versus her other books, sometimes you just have something that happened in the past and you're just slowly learning about what it was and how it happened. But this one is a little different in its structure. This probably isn't the book I would have chosen for the second miniseries to be made of. I am a huge fan of Big Little Lies, both the book and the miniseries. This one, it's a good book, but I don't think it is Liane Moriarty's best book. But hey, I'm not Nicole Kidman. I'm not the one that gets to choose which one of these books get turned into miniseries. So if you have a different opinion, please let me know. Let me know if you think differently. I would love to hear what everyone thought about Nine Perfect Strangers. And again, let me know where you differ from me or things that you think that I got right on. And please let me know in the comments, but don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit those notifications. And until next time, keep those pages turning.